Hello everybody, John here from the esports department going over the 4-game LPL LCK slate for tonight, and this one is kind of the opposite of last night in a not very exciting way here. There's really only one kind of interesting match on the slate, but it is a very interesting match. So let's just start it off. TT plus 500 against WE minus 1,000. TT 0-2 on the season, WE 3-0. So WE has not looked as impressive as I was hoping so far this year. I came in saying that WE might be the second best team in the league this split. They've looked good. They have the best record in the league. They haven't been as impressive as I was hoping. I was really hoping to see them come out and like dominate, and especially through the bot lane. Jumeng's had some mediocre games, especially on the Samira so far this season. I'm hoping that they get it together because they clearly have the potential, I think, to be a championship team or at least a top 3 team in the league. TT, on the other hand, has looked like the worst team in the league, and they were a team that I had some hope for coming in. Sam D and Teen I thought was going to be a pretty good bot lane. Captain came in with a lot of hype. Captain's getting replaced in this matchup. He's not playing, at least to start this series. It's going to be Twilla. So Captain not working out so far for TT. And obviously the stats are pretty monstrously lopsided. 1630 to 1866, minus 264 to plus 201. WE with a very low first blood, first turret, and goal difference of 15. Like they're still ahead of TT in that, but this is kind of indicative of the same thing we saw from WE last year. They were a second and third dragon team. They would lose the lanes sometimes in pure gold in the lanes, but then they were a great team fighting team that would come back and win team fights. Unfortunately for TT, I don't even think they have that advantage against WE. Like, if I'm picking a team against WE right now, it's because I think they can come out and win the lanes hard enough that WE can't out-team fight them later, and I don't see that for TT. So WE, very large favorite. TT has not been on the bloodier side so far, 16.2 DPL to 17.6 for WE. I'm not expecting this to be the bloodiest match of the day, but very, very heavily WE-sided, obviously. The second match of the day, OMG plus 280 up against RNG. RNG undefeated at 2-0. OMG no wins yet at 0-3. RNG a minus 425 favorite. And we're looking at a pretty similar story here, except maybe even more lopsided. OMG has looked better than I expected. So they're better than TT, but they're playing against RNG, who has looked better than WE in my opinion. And when you look at those stat differentials, it's very similar. 1704 to 1869. A minus 177 goal differential per minute to plus 186. Both first blood and first turret go to RNG. They have a 10% dragon percentage advantage. And then minus 1140 at 15 minutes for OMG to plus 300 for RNG. So there's really just nothing to point to on the OMG side as to why they should win this matchup. Obviously in the LPL, any team capable of winning on any given day. So I wouldn't count OMG out as like a GPP playable team. But I'm not excited about them or TT in these LPL matchups. This matchup feels like the bloodier of the two to me. OMG with a lower DPL at the moment, but they have a very high kill per win when they won. So it makes me think just generally they're going to be involved in reasonably bloody games. And RNG also pretty bloody games so far. So this feels like the higher scoring of the two LPL matchups to me. But just another huge favorite. RNG maybe not quite as likely to win as WE, but probably a little bit on the bloodier side. Going over to the LPL, here's the real banger of the day. GenG minus 105, 2-0 on the season. T1 minus 130, 1-1 on the season. This is interesting to me. Let's do the same thing we did yesterday real quick. Let's go to LCK Spring 2021. Let's have a look at the opponents they've played, because they have T1 as the favorite in this matchup at the moment. T1 at the moment has played Brion, Damwon, and HLE. So two pretty tough matchups. GenG has played Brion and KT Rolster, so much easier matchups. Admittedly, so the matchups have been a lot easier, but GenG for me has just looked absurd this season so far. T1 has also looked very good, and when they've played against Damwon, you can't really fault them for having a loss against Damwon. But I think GenG has looked the better team so far this season. Now, they've had way easier matchups, so it's always important to take that into account. But I think T1 is going to end up being the best team in the league come summer playoffs or come spring playoffs. But right now, I think I'm going to give the edge to GenG. So having them as an underdog makes me want to look at GenG as a possible team to play here. If they're the underdog pricing in this game, this series also has the ability to be kind of bloody. You can see an 18 kill per win for GenG, in the 16s and 17s for T1 in kill per wins and deaths per loss. So this series is definitely capable of getting bloody. And I think I think either side of this matchup is playable in DFS, and GenG in particular feels like a spot where we can get some save some salary. I don't know that the leverage will be that good. It does feel like people are going to want to be involved in this matchup, and it feels like people are going to want to take both sides of this. I don't think this is going to be a matchup that's going to go low owned, that people are going to want to avoid or anything. Looking at the stats, GenG pretty much advantages everywhere, but like I said, I think that's a lot to do with matchup. 2041 to 1852, plus 408 to plus 85, 75 100 to 8383. So both teams very strong in the early game. Dragon percentage 79 to 43, and it's a plus 2055 gold lead for GenG, plus 779 for T1. Just two great teams. You can play either side of this matchup and feel pretty good about it, I think. The pricing has, let's do the salary pricing here. I need to do my pool as well. It just annoys the crap out of me to see players that are not in my pool in there. Okay, so just slight advantages on pricing, like T1 is just slightly more expensive than GenG. Oh, I must be missing a jungler. Or is this the top lane? Is that what I was looking at, top lane? Yeah, I'm missing a top laner. Oh, it's because New's backup isn't here yet. New also not playing for OMG for this matchup. GenG versus T1. Yeah, I think you can play either side of that matchup and feel pretty good about it. The pricing has it where you can play either one of these teams fairly easily, and this matchup does rate to be reasonably high scoring. So, the last match of the day, Damwon Gaming minus 2,500, 2-0 on the season, up against Fred at Brion, 0-2 on the season, plus 800. Not a lot to talk about in this one. This is the most lopsided of the matchups today, and we have some very lopsided matchups today. It's pretty wild that on a slate that has some of these other matchups that this would be that there would be another that was even more lopsided, but I think this is, and not only do I think this is super lopsided, but I don't even necessarily think this is going to be a great fantasy scoring game. It feels like Damwon will just run over Fred at Brion. I'm interested to see the projections. I can already see that they kind of like the top lane for Damwon. Well, I guess they're third from the top, so they kind of like Khan. But man, I just feel like this is a matchup where you're just so there's just such a good chance that Damwon just runs them over and doesn't score any points. Yeah, you can see Damwon lurking down a little bit on some of these metrics. Showmaker a little higher. Ghost at the bare bottom, although Ghost has done a little bit better this season, so those stats are starting to update. Barrel towards the bottom. I think GenG feels like a team you can play in cash, but somewhere that I might avoid, honestly, in things like the GPPs, just because I think this matchup ends up being a blowout way too often. Looking at possible ownerships, so Damwon, you got Fred at Brion, you got T1, you got GenG, you got OMG, you got TT, and you got RNG and WE. Those are the teams not in the correct order. As far as ownerships go, I'm guessing we're going to see OMG, or RNG and WE be the two highest owned teams. I think people are probably going to recognize that Damwon is in a matchup where, well, maybe not. I mean, they're such huge favorites. They are very expensive, though, right? No, not even that expensive, really. 8,080 carry. Barrel is way too cheap at 5,400. 7,800 for Showmaker. 7,200 for Canyon. So they're priced pretty expensively everywhere except for Barrel. 5,400 is pretty cheap for a support in a matchup this crazy. So probably their ownership is a little dragged down by the prices, though. Then I could definitely see it be T1. I actually probably think that T1 will be below GenG, so I think it might be GenG T1. Then OMG, TT, and Fred at Brion at the bottom of the list. Pretty much guaranteed that Fred at Brion is going to be at the bottom. The OMG, the T1 and GenG might be switched around. People might be more willing to go to T1. The pricing difference isn't enough where, like, If the pricing difference was more, I would definitely say GenG was going to be higher because people wouldn't like. I think most people are going to be split on who's going to win that matchup, and they'll just take wherever they can save salary. But there's not that big of a difference in salary. Like you're looking at 5,000 for Keria, 4,800 for Life, 7,400 for Gumayusi, 7,000 for Ruler. So just a slight save there. I think maybe GenG's higher. T1 could also end up being higher than GenG, but I'm going to guess that we're looking at something like this. Possible the Damwon's a little higher. WE and RNG could be switched around, but I definitely think these are your top three 100%. These are your bottom three 100%, and it just matters where these two are at and which order these three are in. I'd be pretty confident that this is the order of the bottom three as well. I think probably almost for sure it'll be like that. So, a bit of a tough slate in that there's not really any good underdogs to go with other than the T1 GenG matchup. If you're playing the really big field GPPs, I think you can just get absurdly low ownership on any underdog that's not GenG. GenG is going to be a very common play, I would think, and I imagine that you can get extremely low ownership on anybody else. OMG feels like a spot where you could try to get some ownership leverage. TT, you could take a shot on them. They've looked so bad this season, but WE hasn't looked as good as they maybe should. I don't know that we can mess with Brion. I mean, Damwon has just looked absurdly good, and Brion has just looked absurdly bad. If I was looking at cash games, let's look at the couple different options. I think you're playing some combination of Damwon Gaming, RNG, and WE. So let's see. Let's try Damwon and WE first. Let me just take everybody out. Damwon, WE. We've got a 596. If we went with Damwon RNG, that's a support captain there. Damwon RNG gets a top captain. And it's 586. And then RNG and WE gets you 594. And it's a top lane captain there as well with 4 team WE. Let's see just as a what happens. You get a 611 if you were to play GenG. A 609 if you play T1. These are both with RNG. A 627 if you go WE GenG. And a 614 with WE and T1. So you could try going with one of those if you wanted to gamble a little bit. But for me, I think it's going to be WE RNG for me. I guess if Damwon's projecting a little higher with WE, then maybe you go Damwon WE. I have a hard time with supports right now. Supports have not scored very well, and so support captains, this is not like the ideal time to be on them. The way that there's been some times in the past when it wasn't bad at all to be on support captains. At the moment, their scoring has been kind of bad, and so I'm a little worried to go that way. I think WE RNG getting the top captain with Xiaohu and Breathe, who are two involved top laners, that feels pretty reasonable to me. I think I'm more likely to go somewhere like this. With my cash games today. And then maybe you can hedge into a GPP with some OMG or TT lineups. But this is, I think, where I'm going to end up landing. For the big fields, I feel like you're just going to have to probably lose and just take a shot on TT or OMG. It's just too much leverage that you're going to get with the ownership on them. You can pair them with whoever you want. OMG with T1, OMG with GenG, OMG with Team WE, TT with RNG. Any of those combos, and I think I just skipped Damwon entirely, except for maybe in the cash games. If you felt like going to the Damwon RNG, I could understand that, or the Damwon WE. This is just not an exciting slate, unfortunately. It's one of those slates where you're probably, if you're a GPP guy, I think this slate is a slate where you're going to win $20,000. You're going to lose all your money, probably. I don't think this is a slate where you expect to walk away just making a little bit of money, or like most of your lineups cashing almost ever. So an interesting little slate, but not nearly as exciting as like what we had yesterday. I think it's more of a gambler's slate, and then if you want to try to plant your flag on GenG and T1, you can kind of plant your flag on that, and I could see that being pretty valuable on this slate. So that's all for me today, guys. Back to watching the MMA for me. It's been a fun morning watching the MMA and preparing for tomorrow's games. But good luck to all of us, and let's get some money tonight. I will talk to you guys later.